Good morning. Today is Tuesday, August the 6th, 9:05 a.m. I've decided that I'm going to do another YouTube and maybe another one after that, maybe another one after that. I have to clear my mind of all the information that I know, that I've experienced regarding this entire murder case. I'm going to periodically glance at my notes because my memory is shot, unless I write things down, of course, at this age, for me anyway. With all my stress I'm going through, I'm amazed I can look in the computer this long in one spot in the camera so I can talk. Anyway, okay, couple things regarding, again, the inquiry report that just came out. Again, I'm going to go a little bit into more elaboration on a few points that I feel is important. The very first one that very much disturbed me was when it was said at the inquiry last Wednesday that nobody could perceive or conceive that there would be any murder nurse whatsoever in the nursing home. The staff would never have known about this. Nobody knew about this, and therefore it's a very systematic situation because we have to do something about it. In this situation, I listened and everything, and I said whatever. What I know is, and what I'm sort of questioning, why then in the same report was it written that nurses and PSWs in Crescent Care in Meadow Park called Wetlaw for Angel of Death? You can't call anyone Angel of Death unless you know what they're up to or what they're doing. Now, those nurses and employees and PSWs that worked with Wetlaw or around Wetlaw, obviously, they seen things after she was done with patients, and the nickname started to generate, Angel of Death, quietly amongst everybody else. So I feel right off the bat that contradicts in the long-term care inquiry final report that nobody would have even thought or guessed that there would be a serial killer amongst them. Well, I guess they did. Also, just to support that conclusion of mine, back, don't even ask me, 2017, I think it was, with my mother, we were invited to go to Woodstock and to a arena or some sort of a building, and Andrea Horwath, NDP, sat around with, I'd say, a handful of us, maybe 20, 25 murder victims. You would be invited to go, and we went, and we had nurses there from Crescent Care, PSW as well. They laid it on the line. They were honest, and it was a very private, confidential situation. So they did say, yes, certain things that I brought up that I noticed, and other people were there that they brought up what they noticed was actually correct. And the one Crescent Care nurse did mention the fact that people are afraid. They want to hold their job. They see a lot of things. A lot of those nurses see a lot of things in PSWs. No matter who I've talked to, even currently I've talked to people. So they're afraid to say something because they don't want to lose their job. That should not happen in Canada. When those employees don't come forward, this whole thing with Wetlaw and how many other serial killers are moving around in these places, they're just not getting caught. My personal opinion is because the fear is so strong and the politics is so strong in a nursing home and in hospitals that people see a lot of stuff and they just cover it up. They have to for their job security. So a human life, really, in my opinion, and what I've experienced and seen, especially with my dad, how they've misdiagnosed him, put him on all kinds of psychotropic drugs. I mean, there was a day he didn't eat for a day, okay? I mean, that was also in Meadow Park's paperwork. He didn't eat for a day. Now, while we're on that topic, let's talk about something very logical. Everybody's paying $2,000 maybe bucks a month or more for their senior citizen to go into a nursing home. Now, why are we paying for that? Did you know why? Okay, first of all the seniors are put on these psychotropic drugs, so they can be controlled. Because the nurses are so stressed out and so understaffed, they can't handle it. Okay, when everybody has to have a diaper change, everyone's hungry, one has to go to the bathroom, one has to be turned over so that they don't end up getting bed sores. So it is so stressful because the money and the funding is not there. Okay, so we're going to back up to negligence, and that negligence is not systemic. That negligence is government-run homes, and private homes don't want to share. They just don't want to share. That's it. It's their money, and they don't want to do it. Okay? And they know that people are relying on their service, and they don't care. That's my opinion and about 100 million other people's opinions. There's just no care anymore. There's no loyalty. On the reverse side, you've got your nurses and PSWs who have no motivation. Their morale is down. They're not getting paid, but they're working very hard and overtime and everything. And this man here, obviously I'm jumping now information everywhere, so just hang on. This man here, this is Doug Ford, and I had the pleasure of meeting Doug Ford for the simple reason I booted it out to Lucan, Ontario, because I knew he would be there. And then he went over to Mount Bridges here near London to announce the broadband expansion into the rural areas. Well, I thought that was really fine. I talked with him, and I continued to pursue to talk with him. And I looked him straight in the eye, and I said, that we're getting older. The nursing homes have to have more funding. I think you should look at the situation very clearly and seriously. And this is when he mentioned that his brother, I think I mentioned it before, really had a really great treatment with the nurses and everything like that. So Mr. Ford did realize that it's an important situation, and he's also realized they work hard and they're underpaid. So with that realization, all I can say is that I hope and pray that we move to the next step. And he listened, and maybe he would like to implement a larger, greater funding. So that I also wanted to bring up very quickly. Now, getting back to the nursing home. Yes, no, I have the other stuff here. Anyway, angel of death, we've covered that. Negligence. Now, this is something where I wanted to continue further. CTV News, when the entire inquiry started, and I was being interviewed, and everybody was being interviewed because we were shocked and we were victims of murder and all that stuff back then. There was actually someone, I believe it was in Crescent Care or in Meadow Park, one or the other, where they took a letter, some nurse actually put a letter, private, anonymous, wrote what was really going on and how the management knew in the nursing homes about Wet Lawfer, knew things that were happening, but turned the cheek and didn't bother. Now, this letter you can find online, okay, and this was from a nurse or PSW saying really the truth, what's going on, because there's a lot of staff in there too that knew that was their opportunity, because there's a lot being covered up. These people go home seeing the most horriblest treatment for the seniors. It's unbelievable. It is very shocking to have this happen in Ontario in 2014, 15, doesn't matter when. It all goes back, in my opinion, to greed, bottom line. So anyway, that takes care of my situation regarding angel of death. Yes, they knew that there was a serial killer amongst them. And yes, there was a letter that went out on a CTV automobile put right in the windshield. So yes, indeed, the nurses did inform that there has been things going on and being overlooked and just being shunned away. So again, that is not systemic. That is negligence. That is negligence, and also, because I got a million papers here, hang on. That is negligent. That's also misconduct and incompetence of certain people. Okay? That is a fact. Now, where was I next? Yes. Getting into the inquiry. When I was there regarding the coroners, I was so disappointed. It's not funny. I listened to this gentleman who is at the very top, chief of coroners here in Ontario, and when he was talking about what they felt, how they analyzed things, what have you, how they stopped doing the autopsies. One time they did, now they won't because it's $400 for an autopsy, and that is something he brought up right away. Then I took a really closer look at what he was saying, and the forms weren't even being filled out correctly. There was no tracking process, no nothing. Now, all of a sudden today in the newspapers, I'm seeing it online everywhere today, okay, coroner has new forms, okay, that they're going to be filling out and working with. And I'm thinking to myself, new forms, really? Like a piece of paper 8.5 by 10, like really a new one? Like, if you read that one more time, you will realize that we are all adults, and they could have had those forms a long time ago, and I wouldn't put it past, and I'm serious, I wouldn't put it past the coroners that they already knew what was going on, and I personally think that they got caught through the inquiry. I personally think that a lot of these people, departments, nurses, PSWs, management, administration, they all got caught because nobody cares. Why would you want to have your loved one go into a nursing home and you're kicking out $2,000 or $3,000 if this is what's going on? And it is. I've talked to people who have their family pay $4,000 or $5,000 in a luxury nursing home, and there's stuff going on there too. Like, I don't, like, one guy said on the CBC report, I just read it, and he said, wouldn't it be weird if they already knew, they meaning they, the system, they, the managers, they, wouldn't it be strange if they already knew that there are murders amongst them? It's almost like people are amongst them to do the dirty work and get rid of seniors if like they're too sick or something because they're too hard to look after. It's almost like cleaners that come in and look after situations, and I'm scared. Like, I am really scared. You should see, if you go to the CBC website, the people that are writing in, you know? And then on top of it, regarding lawsuits and things for us victims, we're getting treated and given information really, really badly in this country. We are outsourcing many, many areas right now so that we can see what really and truly our rights are. Because we've got a situation where I was told, and another victim I think was told, that unless you're a paraplegic or something like this in a automobile accident, you are paid out 300 some odd thousand. Then I'm hearing also that Canada and Ontario especially, but Canada does not pay like the United States if somebody gets killed or murdered. They do not do that here in this lovely country of Canada. No, they do not. So, in my opinion, if you had a family member that was murdered, wrapped up in a garbage bag, I'm just trying to make it extreme so you see where I'm coming with this, and put on your front porch, and you wanted to sue, I don't know, a company that did it, example, it's a bad example, but I'm trying to figure this out, then you're not going to get any compensation. Do you understand? The person that you love and cared for in this country, you won't get a nickel. Yet, on the controversy side, what I have noticed, because I've done a ton of research online, like you wouldn't believe, since I'm not working, I'm going to keep my brain going, right? I have found that there are several huge key players involved in paying out certain victims of murders or injustice, okay, or government fault. And those people had to sign a publication ban, and then they get their money, and it's a very quiet day. Why is it quiet? It's quiet because whomever the company is, or if it's a government error, they don't want to lose faith again in the public eye. So this is why this is happening. Isn't that sad that this is happening this way? Regarding Wettlaufer, this is an interesting thing I'd like to bring up for everybody to hear, and then I'm going to get off this tape before it gets a little too long, and I'll have to do another one. Anyway, with Wettlaufer, what really bothers me, I went on to CTV about March of this past year, 2019, and I was speaking because I was supposed to see Wettlaufer in person. If you are a victim of murder, you are allowed to have closure by meeting the perpetrator. I had met with a middleman, okay, their mediator from Corrections Canada, which I didn't have to, but it happened. He evaluated me. We met a couple times. He evaluated me psychologically. Am I able to go see her? I'm not going to hurt her when I go in there to meet with her. Why do I want to meet with her? What are the questions I want to ask Wettlaufer? So I went ahead and I was honest with this individual, and I said everything. Then he said he went back to Wettlaufer, and then he gives out the information to her as to why I want to see her, what I want to know. Okay, so I really wanted closure because I feel she had a lot of answers, okay? She could have been a key witness in this entire inquiry. She was shipped off to Montreal, Quebec, whole different province, before the inquiry started up, about a month before it started up. And then with the help of MPPs and a few other political connections and myself and others, we ended up having Miss Wettlaufer brought back to Kitchener, Vanier. Now, the problem here and the suspicion here that I've had from the day one, I'm a victim, so when I went into court, nobody could talk with her. She said nothing. When she was up on the stand, she only said yes, 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 or no, but mostly yes. And she was taken off in handcuffs and gone with the wind and put into Kitchener, okay, in a woman's penitentiary. So where I'm going with this was, before the inquiry, coincidentally, Wettlaufer was shipped off to Montreal, Quebec. Now, the excuses I've heard and others have heard was that she was A, being beaten up and there was fights, B, she had to leave and have psychiatric assistance with her medical condition, and so there you go. Then when she returned, well, we already went through that. What I feel is she would have been, again, I'll say it again and again and again, she could have been a key witness for this inquiry. Other people have it online too. Okay, I think there was a really huge investigative journalist that also mentioned that she would have been a great key witness. So, ladies and gentlemen that are watching the YouTube, why do you think Wettlaufer wasn't here during the inquiry? Because she could have been a key witness. She could have pointed out situations regarding the coroner. She could have pointed out situations in her own nursing home, Crescent Care and Meadow Park that went awry. She could have pointed out other nurses that were involved, possibly killing off seniors. Let's face it, they're all old and they're all going to die of something, so this is not as traceable as you feel. So she could have pointed out a lot. And I guarantee you, if she would have been the witness, I can honestly guarantee you this inquiry report absolutely would not be saying that no one is to blame. It's systemic. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Because I've seen stuff in there too when I walked in. Okay? Anyway, that nursing home, when I walked in and I knew my dad was there and it stunk like urine when you walk in, I mean, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And when the seniors were being fed, my father was sitting at a table and he couldn't help himself. And I want to make this very clear before I scream it. He was paralyzed with the left hand. Paralyzed. He had a stroke. It paralyzed him 10 years prior. So this hand is out of service, okay? Very simple. So all he had was his right hand. But because he was so drugged up on psychotropic drugs and every kind of drug he shouldn't have had, which also I think did a number on his health, okay, for sure, guaranteed, he wasn't able to just lift up his fork and eat like other seniors in there that didn't have it as bad as he did. But anyway, the nurses would come by, or the feeding people, PSWs, whichever title. They sat on a stool, and I swear to you, they would roll around, take their spoon, put it into the dish of the person, shove it in their mouth, go to the next who couldn't feed themselves, okay? She was rolling around in the dining room. Oh, here she comes again. Another spoon, another spoon, another spoon. No. This is why we paid $2,000 a month. My father died of starvation. He wasn't fed correctly. At days he wasn't fed at all. This is disgusting. This is disgusting. And this is what's going on. Because those people that were feeding the seniors, it was seconds per spoon. And then they went around the circle again. I thought I was seeing things. No. I brought my dad food. I tried everything under the sun. But I'll tell you a little story. The next YouTube I make, it will be about the experiences a victim has in a family where other family members are power of attorneys. And what happens to the family members who are not power of attorneys. And how they suffer. And why they're suing. So I would look for that one. Because my dad, I can't tell you. And another thing, in Meadow Park, there was a guy. This wasn't on the lawsuit. This is not on paperwork. This didn't even get to the news, actually. There was a man who was beside my father in a room. I'd say he was in his mid-50s only. He had a neurological problem. I think he had a stroke or whatever. But he was cognitively fairly sharp. When we would be conversing, he had his marbles pretty okay. He was just moving in there because he's a single man. He couldn't take care of himself properly. He doesn't want a house anymore. And he just needed help. He needed help. That's why he's paying the money. Anyway, I seen him, and then he just moved in, and everything was going okay. And then next thing you know, when I visited my dad or something, within, maybe 4 months, 5 months, he disappeared. His room was empty. Your guess is good as mine. Your guess is good as mine. So I'm telling you right now, there were more, in my opinion, and with what I've heard and documented, I do believe there were more killings within the Meadow Park nursing home. By Wettlaufer, possibly other nurses that aren't coming forward, because I will tell you, As soon as this lawsuit started up and it was on the air and all this publicity started, few people quit from Meadow Park, and I've met them. Some are nurses. Administration quit. The lady who hired Wettlaufer in Meadow Park, she quit. She's gone. Retirement. Yeah, it's funny how they quit so fast. Really fast. Same thing in Crescent Care. There's been nurses in there, PSWs that quit when all this was going in the public eye. Okay, so this is a deep, deep, deep rabbit hole where we are just on the surface of what we heard in the media as 8 people that have been murdered. Why it was 8 murdered is because if they would investigate this further, deeper, and longer, we would come up with triple of people. You have to remember something. It's not just Wettlaufer that did this. Other people did this, and other people are still doing it. Of course they're doing it. It's an easy murder. Don't look at me on the YouTube and say, oh, but she's speculating, and that can't be the truth, and it's not documented, and it's not confirmed. Really? Really, isn't it? Okay, then isn't it kind of odd that the coroners don't even autopsy anymore? So if my recollection is correct, I do believe that the coroners do work closely with the nursing homes. The nursing homes work closely with the Ontario Nurses Association, which is the union. Am I mistaken? Am I missing something? I would surely like to know if I'm missing something. Okay? So there's a lot here that never, ever, ever will meet the press or the media. So if you can't imagine what I'm going through. No, you can't imagine what the other victims are going through. I can't imagine. I feel very sorry for one in particular. Well, with the information, I know I feel sorry for everybody, but in this particular case, Andrea Silcox, Daniel Silcox, the other 2, I don't really know their names in the Silcox family. They had the father that was a war veteran. And to hear how Andrea, her dad died so ever so quickly and suspiciously murdered. Then we have the mother of Andrea, who I guess heard the information that her husband was murdered, and she died. I am giving my condolences for her. She's got to be a tough chick to handle that. Both parents gone in nursing home. What a horrifying nightmare. Horrifying. Anyway, my opinion is there are people out there that are medical killers. It's already an inquiry, yes. Mostly they strike at night. They can strike during the day. I think they can strike at any time because it's all drugs that they're administering. It's drugs. And if you've got a sadistic doctor that's on the staff, and you've got these sadistic nurses, okay, or the odd PSW, yeah, this is a bigger fish to fry. That it is bigger than us, and that's why many say this can never be controlled. It will never be controlled. Because nurses can come in, they can be evaluated, they can be screened to the 9s. And it just takes just once, for them to snap. Or whatever. Game over. Now they're getting off on killing seniors. Wettlaufer killed my father because he pissed her off. She just couldn't take it anymore. But yet my father was fighting for his life every single day of how he was being treated. So how can we blame a senior who's kicking and screaming at the same time he's drugged with reactions from it, obviously? Does anybody want to get killed out there in a bed when you can't move and you're paralyzed? Jesus God. Go back to the animal kingdom. That's what I've been doing lately. Look at all the animals, how they act. When there is a sick animal amongst the entire gang of animals. What happens to that animal that's disabled or sick or ill? In some animal species, they get taken out. That's right. They just get taken out because they're not part of the pack anymore. Not only that, they're slowing the pack down. So I'll let it go at that point, and I'll let it go there for you to do some thinking. But I personally feel that we're living in a corrupt medical system, and I honestly feel that there is no way that this can be repaired unless the government, the private business owners, stakeholders share the wealth. And if not, I would encourage every family to start investigating your senior mother, father, whoever, their death. Start investigating, start asking questions today. Even if the death was 10 years ago, there's an archive. You can find the files on them, and you can start investigating. You have that right. And you will be shocked, I'm sure you'll be shocked to find what you're going to find. This is rampant. And if the health care gets cut back by the conservative government or whatever happens here, and we start bottlenecking, there's going to be more stress with the nurses. They're going to crack up from the stress. If there's no funding put through, just like with the inquiry, they said there would be up to $200,000 invested, what have you, in each situation. I didn't get a clarity on that yet because I have to read it more. That word, up to, means up to. Now, I heard the base is $50,000, starting there. I don't know. I hope so. And will that be enough? It's going to touch the surface because this is so far gone, and they got caught. They got caught because this nurse took the fall. She either took the fall or she does have a conscience, a real one. And she was reaching out to say what was going on because she couldn't take it either, even with herself. There's a priest or a pastor. He also should be prosecuted because she talked to him and she told him what she was doing, and he didn't believe it. Now, this is a preacher? Yeah. You know what he should do? Be prosecuted. Up in the court with judges who are honest, seeing what's going on in this type of a criminal activity. And prosecute them all. There are so many people here who should be up on the stand, and from the stand they should go to jail. Really. They really should. That's my opinion. But I know for some people it's harsh, and I know I should be talking softer, and I know I should just turn the cheek and say it's already done and get on with my life, which I don't have a life anymore. So, not really. I hope everybody continues advocating, start investigating, start asking questions, go to the police department, okay? Do stuff. Get things happening. Go into the nursing home. Start scouting it out all the time. Just go. You're allowed. You're allowed. It's your mother. It's your father. If they don't allow you, then they don't allow you. Then make a complaint. Go to the closest ombudsman. What I'm worried about is a lot of these people that you're trying to reach out for help, if they have any kind of evil or ill motives, are they going to help you? That's my biggest worry. How many people we have honest here now? We need honest people in the system too, you know. So, I mean, this is what worries me, and not only me, everybody else. So anyway, on that note, I'll let you go. It's 34 minutes of me talking. The next YouTube, I think you will find even more shocking. That has to do with how murder victims of parents, I'm a murder victim of my murdered father, okay, sometimes I get all excited and I can't say it right, what they go through with power of attorneys. Because some power of attorneys are honest, and they work with the family, and they want the best for everybody, okay? Other power of attorneys are greedy. They want it all. They don't want to have anything to do with you in the situation. And they become very psychologically abusive, especially if they have a partner, a wife, who's also on the same team. So that will be quite interesting for me to tell my story, my experiences, of which I was so intelligent that I documented them all. I really did. For my own recollection, of course. So stay tuned to that one. That will be even more interesting. Yes, this is a very deep rabbit hole, and it's being uncovered, but just as it gets uncovered, we're getting the inquiry stating that nobody's to blame. And don't forget one thing. It's a recommendation to the current government. It is not binding. They don't have to do a damn thing. They don't. They made their investigations. They've got a book made. Judge Galeese has a book made. All the reports have been done. They've had 2 years at it. People got paid. It's done. That part. That's it. It's information gathering, and it's done. Well, now, they also don't have to take one solitary recommendation because it's not binding. I hope you know that. Anyway, I better roll it. It's 36 minutes. I don't want to get any further into this, but the next YouTube will be quite interesting. And I'm sure possibly some people can relate, because I've had people tell me stories and more stories and more stories about the power of attorney situations. Some people that are actually involved in this situation. It will be interesting for you to tune into that so you see how psychologically damaged I am from all of this. And how I've been so in shock because my motives in my personality and my character are very loving and caring and have good intentions. I was a bit on the trusting side, especially even when my father died, that family members and people and power of attorneys also have good intentions. So I guess we'll find out in the next YouTube. Have a good one.